Hey, for all the authors that are listening out there, I wanted to share with you this great email that we received here at the Reading with Your Kids podcast from Dr. Linda Mubarak. She is a past guest and the author of Maxine's New Job. Here's the email. Dear Fatima and Jed, good news! Maxine's New Job has been nominated to receive the prestigious Henri Award at the 2018 Christian Literacy Awards for Outstanding Literacy Work in the Children's Book Division. I sincerely believe your certifying Maxine as a great read helped bring increased social media attention to the book. Thank you for the exposure and the great marketing. We are so happy for Dr. Linda Mubarak that her book, Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read, Maxine's New Job, received this prestigious recognition. We would love to help your book receive that same kind of recognition. If you are interested in having your book considered for our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program, please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can click on the contact button, send us a note, and we'll send all the information back to you, or you can go right to our Certified Great Read page on our website. It's fun, it's easy, and it is really an effective way to let the world know that your book stands out above all the rest. The Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program.
Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're part of our Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Daniel Williamson. He is here to celebrate Look at Me, I'm Learning. You know, the reason we want you to subscribe to the show is that we don't want you to miss an episode, and it's especially important that you subscribe to the show now, because in just a few weeks, we are going to be introducing a special series of Reading with Your Kids episodes that we are calling Solve It. We're creating this series of episodes with our friend, our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. We are going to talk to scientists, engineers, astronauts, creative people, talking to these folks about how they solve problems with creativity, critical thinking, and imagination. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to be a show that you are going to love listening to with your kids. So, like we said, subscribe to the show so you don't miss Solve It. Joining us on the line right now from the south coast of the United Kingdom, he is the author of a great series called Look at Me, I'm Learning. Please welcome to the show, Daniel Williamson. Daniel, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I am pretty wonderful, and I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about your Look at Me, I'm Learning series, because your series is helping kids learn a number of different languages.
Yeah. I've got up to 10 now, 10 languages in the series. And I just really saw a sort of an opportunity because there was no books out there like this, where parents had the opportunity to introduce children to a new language using a colourful and playful picture book. All the other books out there just seemed so boring and very, very textbook-like and just not endearing to young children, basically. I just kind of had the idea to set up one generic story, and be able to translate it into lots of different languages. And that enabled me to save on my, artist's, costs and my artist time. And just be able to help push forward my sort of, self-publishing process, basically.
That's a really genius idea. We've also talked to another author, about this, Angie Lee, and her book Cub's Wish. She had the same kind of issue. She had this great story, and she wanted to continue with it, but that whole, writing is one thing. Illustration, if you're not an illustrator, that's can be a major cost. And so she, like you, is choosing, while she's preparing and waiting for the illustrations to come along for the new stories, to take the existing story and to translate it into a number of different languages. Now you have different, she's translating her story with a message. You're actually created a story that is looking to teach kids the different languages.
Yeah, so it's like I say, it's aimed as an introduction, and it's not going in. It's going in at grassroots level, but it's not going in right at the very beginning. It's somewhere in the middle, I'd say, because obviously there's a lot of children out there in households where they have bilingual parents, or even sometimes just parents that want to teach them a new language. But for the bilingual parents, let's just say, there's all varying different levels of how well that child speaks that language. You can have 2-year-olds that are nearly fluent in that foreign language, that second language, and you can have 10-year-olds that are just want to try a language for the first time. I mean, my stories predominantly are aimed at 3 to 6-year-olds, but I've heard of children as young as 1 and as old as 10 enjoying them and using them, and even adults as well, even though they're picture books. Some mothers will say, this is a great book for my kid to learn Portuguese, but I'm going to make my husband read it as well.
Well, you're right about, language is one of those things we naturally pick it up by listening and interacting and, kind of being thrown into the deep end. That's the way people have always learned it. And then, in recent history, we developed classes and textbooks, and they're great for some folks, but they can be incredibly boring for other folks, especially folks who, like me, are challenged by learning new languages. Doing it through the picture book, it takes a lot of pressure. It's a little bit more fun. It might be a little easier to understand because you can get a lot of context clues from the pictures.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine if you're a parent that speaks a foreign language and you want to introduce your child to that, if you're trying to put a textbook in front of them, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to work, So this is my idea of how to bridge that gap in a fun way, so that the child will want to sit down with the book and be able to point at all the things like the peas on the plate and count them, and the different colours of the rainbow. And it's a great opportunity for the parent to sit down with the child and be able to read through in English and then read through in their mother tongue or their foreign language they speak, and the child can read it back and repeat, and also see how the words are written as well as hear how they sound. So it kind of links it all up in one sort of introductory book, really.
Now, one of the knock against folks from the United States is that they don't like to learn languages, and that they travel around the world expecting everybody else to be able to speak English, which is different than UK English.
Well, we're kind of tarred with the same brush as well.
Okay.
I expect because we're European, we may learn more languages like French. I mean, I know Spanish is very big in the States, especially sort of, the southern states and California. But yeah, we do probably learn a few more, but then there are still some, obnoxious English people who go abroad on holiday and will expect everybody to speak English, so it's not just the Americans.
Well, what do you think about, because I do know we've hosted international students here in our home from Italy and the Netherlands and China and Japan, and in a lot of those cases, they're kids who have at least a foundation in 3 or 4 different languages.
Yeah.
What is it about our two cultures that are, there's kind of a learning language aversion there, that we don't think it's important to learn different languages?
I think it's just out of necessity, really, at the end of the day, because English is the most commonly spoken language internationally. Obviously, it's not spoken by the most amount of people. That's Chinese Mandarin.
Right.
But because English is spoken everywhere, I mean, even in things such as like the aviation industry, it's the standard language is English. I think it sort of invokes a certain laziness in people, because they're just like, wow, I live in America or I live in England. Everyone here speaks English. I go abroad, most people will speak English as well. So, a lot of them don't feel the need. I think you have to have a real sort of desire to learn a new language. I mean, I think most parents that have bought my books, or teachers that have bought my books, the parents especially, that they already have that connection to another country. So, they might be half Portuguese, or they might have Italian roots or whatever. So there's already that sort of willingness to teach their child another language, because there's that link to family. But I agree that unfortunately we can, as humans, just be lazy and not really sort of go for it when it comes to learning a new language, unless we really sort of motivate ourselves to do so.
Yeah. I know in my case, language was incredibly difficult for me in school, and, when I was learning it in that traditional way. I've since, in my elderly years here, I really love going to another country and trying it. That was one of the things, as a kid, it was like, I don't want to embarrass myself. Now I don't care. I go, I make all sorts of crazy mistakes, but it turns out to be fun, and it's great stories, and, that would be a great attitude. I wish I had that attitude when I was a kid. It would have made things much easier for me.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I've learned 4 different languages. So I studied French, German, and Spanish when I was at school, and I've recently been teaching myself Brazilian Portuguese. And it's funny you should touch on that, because the one major factor that I've realised throughout all those languages and being trying to teach yourself them, it's confidence, and it's being willing to put yourself out there and practice and get things wrong. And I've done it time after time after time. I'll just spout out something. If I've been to France, I'll just spout out something in French, and people may understand you or they may not, but they will always correct you, and they'll always appreciate you actually making the effort to try and speak their language. Especially if you are tarred with the English brush of, they just come here and expect us all to speak English. I've had the same in when I've been to Brazil, that I'm willing to relentlessly try and fail and get things wrong. And then, people will correct you, and that's how you move on and improve. And, a lot of people aren't comfortable with that process. A lot of people are shy or not confident enough to make mistakes, but it is a vital part of learning any language, for sure.
It really is. And you are absolutely correct. That is one of the things, the universal things that I found when you encounter somebody who speaks a different language, if you're in a different country or here in the States where there are different neighborhoods with a large ethnic population, if you try and you make the effort, no one's going to be offended if you make a mistake, even if you mispronounce a word and it turns out you're pronouncing a very impolite word. People will understand and they'll usually laugh, and they will appreciate you trying.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when I was a teenager and going on French exchanges and things, we had less help, because we were there and we had to just try and get on and communicate. At least nowadays, if you've got less reason not to try in a way, because you can try and say exactly what you want to say. If they don't understand, you can maybe ask them what a certain word is or what the opposite of a certain word is, and you can try again. If they still don't understand, you've always got the safety net of Google Translate. So you can have a go. If you get it wrong and you're getting the frowning looks, you can always use Google Translate and go, oh wow, I was way off. And then read out the sentence or the question you want to say. But then that's another good way of learning it as well, right? Because if you embarrass yourself to that level and then you learn the certain phrase you were trying to say, that phrase sticks with you, and it's just another part of the learning process, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things, too, I learned, and I think that's one of the benefits of learning language with a picture book, with the kind of tools that you're developing, is that you're learning phrases. You're not kind of and so you're building up a kind of a foundation of phrases that are typical, and you're not necessarily trying to translate the way you express something in English into another language, because it might not make any sense to them. There are a lot of expressions that just don't translate well. That we understand what they mean, but other folks that wouldn't.
Yeah, totally. And like I say, my series of books, they do go in at grassroots level. So there's a lot in there about how to say, what's your name? How to say, hi, how are you? If I meet, a person who speaks that foreign language, and what would they say? And all the basics, counting the peas on the plate and the colours of the rainbow. That's where I sort of went in, where, children could pick up certain sentences that they could use, that they could practice with their parents. And then, I know I have a 5-year-old daughter myself, and she loves, telling me how she's learned this word in Spanish or that word in Spanish, or, she can count to 10, or now she can count to 20. She gets really excited about it, So it's nice to have, something to introduce parents something for parents to introduce their children to a new language where they can actually get excited about it.
That's something that's really powerful, I think. And we talk a lot about parents being kids' first teachers, and their most important teachers. And I think if you're taking something like your book series, and you're sitting down with kids, and as a parent, you're giving kids their first words in Spanish or Portuguese or Russian, and you're having that fun, and then maybe you take a trip to a Russian market or a Spanish neighborhood or an Italian restaurant, and you try to order in that language, and the kids have that fun. That's a memory that's going to last with your kids forever, and they're going to start to think of you as, my parent isn't just somebody who tells me to eat my vegetables and go to bed. My parent is somebody who's really introducing me to the world.
That's it. And then the children are gaining a sort of positive association with foreign languages then. And that, you don't know how deep this can go at the end of the day, but you could be affirming that sort of positive association with a foreign language at a very young age. And then they could just order something simple in a Spanish restaurant, and the waiter be so amazed at how good their Spanish is at such a young age. You could ignite a real sort of, a real connection with the language for that child, and it could go on throughout their life at the end of the day, So I do feel it's really important, for parents to try these things and to try learning these languages, even if they're not bilingual themselves. Having a second language is always going to be a massive life skill. For example, if you just learn to speak Spanish, look at all the countries in the world that you could visit where that is their native language. It just opens up so many more doors.
Yeah. My niece, who is a native Spanish speaker, we're sitting down, and she is learning Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese. And we just sat down and we're calculating just how much of the world she'll be able to communicate with those 3 languages.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, I've been learning Brazilian Portuguese myself, and Brazil's probably my favorite country to visit. It's just absolutely a beautiful country, beautiful people. And, it's such a big country for me to be able to explore now. And I feel I can now because I've got my language up to the level where I can converse. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I've decided already that I want to learn more Spanish now because that opens up the whole of South America as well as Spain, and I'd really like to do some more visiting around South America for sure. So that's next on my list anyway.
Now, Daniel, have you done any research into other benefits other than just learning the language and other than just being able to converse with folks in different countries? Are there any other kind of benefits? Do kids who have more than one language, do they do better in school and other subjects?
I personally haven't looked into that or done any research into that, but I just think it's such a good string to have to your bow, to have another language. I mean, I personally think that if you are able to start at a young age and take a language all the way to what we would call A level in England, which is when you hit 16 in England, you've just finished 10 exams, and then you choose your 3 favorite subjects normally. I think that would be majors for you. Is that correct? I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But you choose your 3 best subjects, and if you take them to A level or advanced level, you do your exams at 18, you're basically fluent in that language. And if you can keep it up, then you've got a language for life. And I always think, if you're fluent in any language, you'll always be able to find a job or some work or be able to travel. So it's going to be like a life opportunity for you just to be fluent in one language.
Absolutely.
Let alone, more than that.
Yeah. Now, one of the things we haven't talked about are the different languages that we can learn through your series.
Yes. So at present, my series has been translated into Look at Me, I'm learning Spanish, French, German, Italian, Polish, Brazilian Portuguese, Chinese Mandarin, Arabic, Russian, and Hindi. So that's where we are right now. And out of those 10 languages combined, there's roughly 3.5 billion speakers in the world, so about half the planet with the 10 languages I have right now. But what I love most about this series is that the possibilities are endless, because I have the story and the artwork template done effectively, so I can just keep translating into multiple different languages and just keep self-publishing more and more books. So that's quite exciting.
Wow.
Another big thing for me, which has always been the sort of grand plan, is that they're currently being back translated to Look at Me, I'm learning English. And now this is going to be sold in Mexico, Spain, France, Italy, Brazil, all in their native languages. But Look at Me, I'm learning English. So it's a way to help parents in all those countries teach their children English, which is great in itself anyway. But if you think about the possibilities and the opportunities that opens up for parents, even in some of the poorer countries, it's a great gateway to getting a child to learning a very, very important language. So, I'm very excited about that.
That is exciting. And one of the things that I'm really impressed with is that you very clearly are looking at children's publishing, about writing children's books, as it being a business, and you chose a model that you can I guess the word is scale. You can scale and really absolutely make the most out of it. This is a lesson that so many authors don't learn until they're 4 or 5 books in, or until they've kind of thrown their hands up in the air and they said, "What am I going to do with the 5,000 books that are down in my basement?"
Yeah. Yeah, I always wanted it to be scalable. Back when I was considering going down the self-publishing route, the biggest worry for me was always going to be that it'd be really expensive. I'd spend a lot of money on an artist and ISBNs and marketing and things like that, and I would spend a lot more than I would ever make. And this has kind of been a way for me to sort of flip the script. Obviously, it's not all about money at all. It's about just, I think if you're a creative, you want as many people as possible, especially if you're a children's author, you want as many people as possible to enjoy your work and it to be of use to them and of benefit to them, Mm-hmm. So this has just been a great model and a great way for it to expand and scale.
Where can folks go to learn more about this series?
Okay, so all my books are available on Amazon. So any country that has Amazon, you can just go to Amazon and search for Look at Me, I'm learning, and then whichever language you want. Or you can just go straight direct to my author page. So just type Daniel Williamson into the search bar on Amazon and you'll see me come up, and all my books come up there as well. So that's the best way to go.
That's excellent. I may have to check out the Mandarin Chinese, because I tell you, when the kids, we've had 4 or 5 students from China live with us, and I've tried to learn, and they try to help me. But I'm always getting the tones wrong.
Yeah, the best thing about the Mandarin, Hindi, Arabic, and Russian books, those are the newest 4 in my series, and those actually all come with phonetics. So there's a way, it shows you how you would say the words if you were pronouncing them with English words. So it's a real good aid. And I've personally tried the Chinese Mandarin one, and it's really fun, and you can literally just hear yourself saying the words correctly because you've got them written in English right in front of you. So it's a real great gateway.
Oh, great. So you have the Chinese characters, and then it's written, I think it's Pinyin, but it's written with the English phonetics.
Above each character, it'll say Ping Wong Wen Yo, and it tells you exactly how to say each character as you go through. So it's a great way to learn, because obviously if you're writing for young children, you know, they're not going to know what a symbol means straight away, especially if they've just grown up in the UK or in the USA or Canada, for example. So it's just another great way of bridging the gap so that they can see how it would be said if they were to use English words, but at the same time get used to saying the sounds and seeing the symbols.
Excellent. Well, we've had a great time speaking to the author of the Look at Me, I'm Learning Languages series, Daniel Williamson. Daniel, thanks so much for taking this time with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Eleni Theodoro. She is going to be telling us about Nako the Knight and how we can develop a culture of compassion in our schools. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a great children's book, be sure to check out our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. You can find out more information by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, clicking on the Author Services button that you will find at the top of the page in our menu. It's a wonderful program that has helped many, many authors, and we would love to help you too. I want to thank the people who helped make this show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our buddy Daniel Williamson. Be sure to check out Look at Me, I'm Learning. I also want to thank my incredible team, starting with my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. And thank you so very, very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.